Now, the two sides don't agree on
Enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We gotta unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live Friday, June 21st. I'm Dean Obeidallah, hoping to be your MBFF. And even though it's the last day of the week, all weekend, I'm there for you, waiting for you. You can email me, dean@deanofradio.com. I will get back to you. Or Twitter, @Dean Obeidallah, or Facebook.com/deanofradio, where you can watch the monologue. Or in the third hour tonight, we do What Just Happened. You can watch it there. So, a lot going on. Donald Trump was cocked and loaded, and thank God something stopped him, because I don't even like those words together in a sentence in Donald Trump's name, but that's what he told us on Twitter. And he didn't do the strike because he cares about Muslims. Are you laughing? You should be, because look, I'm Muslim. I know he hates me. He hates all my everyone in our group. He wanted to ban us. Now all of a sudden he cares about killing Muslims? Come on. Got a lot to cover. First, Colbert helps us make sense of this with some jokes from last night before he knew about the airstrike, but when he knew about the drone being shot down, helps us get into the first topic. Let's hear clip number one from Colbert.
Now, the two sides don't agree on the details of what happened with this drone. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said it shot down an intruding American spy drone after it entered into the country's territory. Well, U.S. Central Command says this was an unprovoked attack on a U.S. surveillance asset in international airspace. But who are you going to believe, Iran or the U.S. government? Is a question that used to be really easy to answer. One thing.
Not blindly accepting, doesn't matter Democrat nor Republican to believe, you got to show me objective evidence. I'm not going to believe anything Trump says. So that's the one part. Second, here is Colbert on Trump going, something's going to happen, and it could have been this bombing. Let's hear clip number two.
So what's the administration going to do? Well, today the president was asked about the situation in the Oval Office.
Mr. President, how will you respond?
You'll find out. You'll find out. You'll find out.
We'll find out. Mr. President, this is an international conflict, not the season finale of The Bachelor. Denise, you get the rose. Iran, you get invaded. Trump was certain where the drone was when it was shot down. Scientifically, not just with words. Scientifically.
That includes.
Now words aren't science.
Scientifically, I don't believe in science when it comes to climate change, but now I got scientifically here. So you have this, and as I think we all know now, if you follow the world, we learned this morning when we woke up that Donald Trump had greenlit a military response to the downing of our drone, and they were going to target radar batteries and missile batteries. And then Donald Trump, for some reason, we found out, said, no, let's not do it. He called it off. The operation was underway. There's no disputing it. Vladimir Putin called him and said, look, buddy, I got you elected. Don't do this. And so no one knew really what happened. We were all speculating what happened. Why did Donald Trump say no after saying yes? Why did he flip-flop within a half hour on a fundamentally key issue like the use of our military, which is not a game. It's not a game. But then Donald Trump answered it, sort of, with a tweet at around 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And he said, on Monday, they shot, this is his real tweet, folks. On Monday, they shot down an unmanned drone flight in international waters. We were cocked and loaded. This is where everyone's talking about cocked and loaded. This is right in his tweet. We were cocked and loaded, which sounds like a Police Academy sequel. In any event, we were cocked and loaded to retaliate last night on 3 different sites when I asked, how many will die? 150 people, sir, was the answer from a general. 10 minutes before the strike, I stopped it. Not proportionate to shooting down an unnamed drone. I love how he actually put the lines there like the script. 150 people, sir. Why not just Mr. President? I'm surprised you didn't add that. But according to Trump, he didn't do it. And there's a few questions we have here that I need your help with. First of all, do you believe any of this garbage? Do you believe it seems uncontroverted that we did scramble the military and they had planned an action? But do you believe his reason for stopping it? Do you believe that it was actually about his concern of human life, that he didn't know 150 people would die? That didn't come up until 10 minutes before they were about to launch their missiles. You know, I interviewed Congressman Ted Lieu, who's a U.S. Navy veteran today for Salon, and we'll play that on Tuesday. And we talked about this very issue. And he's from the military. He goes, in military briefings and discussions, one of the first things you talk about is potential casualty losses. So he goes, that's just not believable. And it's not believable. Of course, they told Donald Trump 150 people were going to die, or whatever number they gave him. Second, 150 people, what's the cutoff for Trump? It was like 85 were going to die. I'm okay with 85. 150 is a bit much for me. 89, okay, I can do it maybe. 150, too much. And to him, look, he doesn't like my people. He doesn't like Muslims. I'm not Iranian, but I am Muslim. He doesn't like any of us. He really doesn't like the Saudis. They make him money, so he likes them for that. But he doesn't like brown people, doesn't like black people, doesn't like Muslims, doesn't like Latino people. To Trump, I could see him going, 60 people, that's okay, because, every 3/5 of brown people equals one white person, so that's okay. So does anyone actually think, for a second, I'm so dying to know, does anyone think that he called it off because he thought he was going to kill innocent Muslims in this? Does anyone believe that? Because I got to talk to you about that one. And so we really don't know. What we do know, though, is his reaction to say no mid-flight of the planes has not been greeted with support on either Democrat nor Republican side. Now, some are saying it's good that he didn't get engaged. That's different. It's different to say, I'm glad we didn't have military action. But the bigger question is, why is a guy in the White House flip-flopping in 10 minutes on a key issue like this? And here is Brian Kilmeade on Donald Trump's favorite friend, Fox and White Friends, which is on every morning with a bunch of white people. And here's Brian Kilmeade, one of the white friends, criticizing Donald Trump on Donald Trump's favorite show. So Trump saw it, and he tweeted an hour after this. So I think it was this Brian Kilmeade going against Trump and calling him weak for doing this and making it say like America looks weak because of doing this that made Trump go, I need an excuse for why I did this. So here's clip number 3.
North Korea is watching. All our enemies are watching. Of course, Assad is watching, and for 7 weeks, nothing but provocations. There's a price to pay for inaction, and that says a lot. And I think that we have put suffocating sanctions on them, and every day that passes by, they get weaker. However, every day that passes by, when they blow up 4 tankers and we do nothing, when they blow up our drone that cost $130 million and we do nothing, we know it's not going to end there. So at some point in the Middle East, no action looks like weakness, and weakness begets more attacks.
Fox News, right there. Brian Kilmeade telling Trump, you're making us look weak. They're laughing at us in the Middle East. That's what he's saying. There's others saying the same thing on the right. There's some, Rand Paul and others on the right, applauding Trump for not doing this, and vice versa. Same thing. Some on the left, most on the left, from what I heard, are critical of Donald Trump and the way this went down. But some are happy he didn't engage in military action. And that's a different discussion, of course. But let's be blunt. Donald Trump has set up the drumbeat towards war. And look at the people he's surrounded. He's got a war council now. Some of the people in his earlier administration didn't want war with Iran. The people now, John Bolton, his national security advisor, is a man who's called for regime change, who was one of the architects of the lies for the Iraq war. And just to remind people, John Bolton said in 2002, in the lead up to the war, in lying, we are confident that Saddam Hussein has hidden weapons of mass destruction. And John Bolton said that over and over and over again. And he's in the Trump administration. And he wants He's called for regime change before, and he has no problem lying to the American people. So you got John Bolton. You got Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who should be called Secretary of War because he's nothing about diplomacy. He wants war with Iran. That's a big thing going on. In 2014, Pompeo argued that a U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear program would be relatively straightforward, which is just remarkable. In 2016, he wrote a Fox News op-ed arguing Congress must act to change Iranian behavior and ultimately the Iranian regime. So you got the National Security Advisor and Secretary of State both on board for regime change in Iran. And of course, Donald Trump himself has laid the groundwork for war with Iran. He broke from the 2015 nuclear deal that we had with the EU, the European countries, and Russia were involved in us. Just so it's clear, there's no dispute. Iran did not break that deal. Donald Trump ended that deal last year. Donald Trump can give you all the reasons in the world. What it comes down to with that is it's a campaign promise. It's erasing the legacy of the black president that Donald Trump and so many in his base hate. So that's the one goal about that. And now we have the escalation of war drums with misinformation. There was an article in the New York Times yesterday about a briefing given to members of Congress by the Trump administration connecting Al-Qaeda. Remember Al-Qaeda? Haven't heard them in a while. Al-Qaeda in Iran. And the briefing that Pompeo gave talked about the relationship between Iran and Al-Qaeda. And members of Congress who were there went on record. Congresswoman Elisa Slotkin, a Democrat from Michigan who's a former CIA analyst, said they talked about the relationship between Iran and Al-Qaeda. And she said any of us working on national security should be looking at any talk of ties between Iranian leaders and Al-Qaeda with a real skeptical eye. And to remind people, Iran's a Shia Muslim country. There's different sects of Islam. Now, you've got the Shias, which are like Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Sunni Muslims, which are most Muslims in the world. So, like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and while there's pockets of Shias all over, it really is majority, overwhelmingly Shia. There's nothing in the faiths that say we should fight and kill each other. But in reality, in the Middle East, it's become sort of tribal and geopolitical reasons, and you bring people together because you're of the same tribe, and I'm Sunni and they're Shia, let's fight them out. In fact, in Iraq and in Syria, Iran has been supporting Shias, Hezbollah, and their own forces, killing Sunnis and Al-Qaeda and vice versa. Al-Qaeda considers the Iranian Shias apostates. They don't even consider them Muslims, and they kill them. Now, that's an extreme view of Sunni Islam, but that's... So to say now they're working together flies in the face of common sense. As the New York Times reported yesterday, quote, there's no public evidence that Tehran has allowed Al-Qaeda operatives to plot attacks on the United States from Iran or offered a haven for large numbers of fighters. So why are they doing this? Well, this is the same way we were led to the Iraq War. How many times did you hear the term Saddam Hussein and 9/11 in the run-up to 2003 war? All the time, even though undisputed, Saddam Hussein was not involved in 9/11. He didn't like Al-Qaeda either. They were a threat to him. No dispute, he was not involved. But on the eve of the war in Iraq, they did polling. What percentage of Americans do you think Saddam Hussein was involved in 9/11? 70% of Americans. Why? Because there's no facts because of Bush and Cheney and Bolton and the other architects of the Iraq War. They tied it together with 9/11, getting Americans who are worried and scared and go, we want revenge. We're going to fight them there, instead of them fighting them here. We went to war. So they're trying to tie Al-Qaeda to Iran now. And there's probably potentially another reason why they need an authorization for military force from Congress to go into a war. At least on paper they do. And they're saying now, many Democrats are saying, well, they're trying to tie the original authorization of military force against Al-Qaeda after 9/11 to be used to justify war in Iran. Through all of this, though, we're going to see an authorized strike and then call it back. There's no doubt he did not. There's zero doubt in my mind that he cares killing 150 people. He doesn't care about that. It means nothing to him. What I do know is with Donald Trump, the one thing is his deciding factor in doing anything is very simple. It's always what's good for Donald Trump. What is good for him politically? So if you ask, are we going to go to war with Iran? I'm not sure. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we're going to war with Iran. I hope we don't. It's a country of 80 million people. It would be horrific. But if Donald Trump thinks it's good for him politically, he will go to war with Iraq. Not good for the U.S., good for him. And if he does not think it's good to have military response, personally, politically, he will not do it. So there's some reason Donald Trump benefited by not doing this attack. I'm not sure what it is. Because we all know this. Donald Trump is motivated by one thing, Donald Trump. So through that prism, help me understand. Why do you think Donald Trump ordered an attack and then pulled back on it and then pretended that he cares about killing Muslims in Iran, which we all know that's not true. So I'd love to, you're my guest right to the top of the hour, 866-997-4748. Help me make sense of what's going on here with Donald Trump. Why would you first order an attack and then pull back 10 minutes before the missiles are going to hit, as he claims? I have no idea. Let's take a break. Come back. I want to hear from you. Look, it's time the media start calling out Trump's false statements for what they are. Lies. Trump is a liar. And by the looks of it,